So I'm going to start out by creating a Pygame replit. Pygame, if you have or have not heard of it, it's a game library, buttery ragged data sets. That's the name of my repository. Sure. Pygame is a really awesome library for Python. It's basically a whole game engine that you can now build and write games in Python, which is really useful because if anyone's ever tried to make video games before, Unity, Unreal, they never feel like actually programming. One of the biggest problems is that it always feels sort of disconnected. It doesn't feel right. So I'm going to start off with why bother doing any work? I'm assuming everyone's seen the classic DVD logo bouncing around the screen. Let's get ChatGPT to try writing it. In Pygame, write a script that bounces a square image around screen like the DVD logo. So let's say, so looks like they've got everything generated. So if I just replace this and run it, I think looking for a square image, we don't have one yet. So it might yell at me. Let's see. Also, here's the link to resources. I'm going to go ahead and open up the GPT-4 example so that we can set it up in a second. So yeah, there's no file called square PNG. So I'll go ahead and upload a placeholder file for now. I have a whole folder that I have saved profile pictures for Steam over the years. So I have like a bunch of these that I can grab. Where did it go? I've somehow buried there we go. So we'll go with, all right, we're going to go with a picture of my dog. He is an adorable good boy. I'm going to rename it to Square, just so code doesn't freak out. I also could have done that the opposite way. Let's see. It's breaking. How dare you, ChatGPT? I'm going to go back to the earlier version that they made that did work. And I'm going to take that. So sometimes you'll want to prompt ChatGPT to make it a bit better. In this case, I already generated it before, so I know it works. So right now we have 800 by 600 image where your square PNG will bounce around. But obviously, it's no corner, by the way. It's obviously no fun when it's just a random person's dog, even if they're a cute dog. So let's try and think of what's a background image we can put. How can we replace what's bouncing around in screen? What are some placeholder assets we can come up with? So we know that right now, the screen width and height as generated are 800 wide, 600 tall. So we can go to advanced. We can actually change that exact width and height to 800 by 600. So now, what's a fun background we think might be fitting for this bouncing subject? Anyone have ideas? What would be a fun background to have things? Stars? Ooh, that's a fun idea. So let's take a look at some of the. All right. So let's set it up. Brand new chat. All right. Provide the keyword and they'll generate 3 different types of prompts following the guidelines. So what they're looking for specifically, if we go through this, it looks like we can set up as much as we want. So I think we just want to stars. I'm thinking photorealistic. Or are we thinking artistic? Bunch of other dogs. Shrek, please. I'm seeing a Shrek floating in space. Let's go with an. All right. We want to go type of image, artistic, subject description. Let's just try this. Shrek in an ethereal celestial form floating amidst stars and galaxies in space. That looks pretty great. Volumetric and cosmic lighting. That sounds fun. The fun part is this generates so long. Shrek floating in space with a mischievous smile and has his arms crossed confidently, floating gracefully in the vastness of space. Would you call Shrek a friendly ogre? I feel like that's already up for debate. I don't know if I actually agree with that. So we're going to try. I'm totally curious. What are we going to get from a prompt like this? So generating 4 by 3 images, Shrek in an ethereal form, floating amid stars and galaxies in space. That's pretty great. Like I set it up. I think I set up ChatGPT improperly. So I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to get it like this, but that is an interesting rendering. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it definitely messed that up because like multiple things didn't go right.
So one thing to note with these GPT prompts is that you kind of have to make multiple renditions of them with how you create it, because sometimes either you need to answer and ask it something very specifically in every way, or you're pulling it off the internet. So this may have been somebody's like end of a chat prompt or something like that. So it might not be
Yeah.
perfect, but the idea is that it's
There are also I had the style set to photographic the entire time, which probably didn't help either. But yeah, there's a lot of, let's see. I'll try generating. All right. We're going to go with the weird Yoda Shrek for now, just because I want to try. We got to generate the square as well. So we'll throw this as Yoda Shrek. So now what I can do is I can take this, I can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my code. I'm too used to using Mac. Give me a moment. I can say, hey, here's my code. Change the background from solid white to a color or to a image. So now I copy this, copy paste, and then go ahead and add our amazing, amazing image of Yoda Shrek. I should just have to replace their background JPEG. Ah, it's not a JPEG, it's a PNG. Now we have that gorgeous background to our bouncing DVD. So start a totally brand new chat and just see what happens if we prompt ChatGPT outright. Create a short descriptive prompt for a text to image generator to render a cute labradoodle. I am biased. Labradoodles are the best dogs out there, objectively. Okay, so that doesn't really work. Focus on just adjectives and nouns to be included in frame. Boom. So I'm going to take that, toss that all in, and we're going to generate our nice square image. So let's generate 3 of them. The cute, cuddly Labradoodle, delightful, curly, caramel covered coat, wagging tail, perky ears, park, joyful essence. Boom. Look at those cute dogs. I'm definitely not biased, but those are adorable. So, boom, we can do dog.png. And, if I wanted, let's say I think the bandana is a little overkill, that might be something you could add to negative prompts. So I can add dog.png, upload that into the file, and then just replace it. Boom. We got dog.png. So now we've got a generated placeholder dog bouncing around in frame over a very interesting depiction of Shrek in space. This is I want to try. Let's see. Right now, create a short descriptive prompt for a text image generator to render a Shrek of Shrek movie fame floating in space. So here's a fun fact. I'm curious. Has anyone heard of Shrek's Law before? Has anyone heard of Shrek's Law?
what
Shrek's
is
Law is an Shrek's Law is an absolutely fascinating. Shrek's Law dictates that essentially every Shrek movie, the number of render hours you need to create it doubles. Shrek 1 took, let's say, 100,000 hours of rendering on computers to render the whole movie. Shrek 2 took 200,000. Shrek 3 took 400,000. Every single Shrek movie or movie that's generated under the Shrek name has doubled in render time. It I believe it is, yeah, it is similar to Moore's law that the number of CPU render hours needed to complete the sequel doubles every time. And it has like the curve has matched perfectly and it is baffling. So that's a fun fact about Shrek for you. So let's see. With just the tweaks to ChatGPT prompts, boom. I don't know if that I call either of them Shrek in space, but they're honestly already better attempts. Like that definitely has Mike Myers. That has a Mike Myers feel to it.
We could try saying portrait in the negative prompts.
Ooh, yes. I'm gonna generate them in Midjourney now because I think I'm already out of the free credits I got with Stable Diffusion. I've complained
So
about Mid,
another
so
thing to note about Stable Diffusion is that Dream Studio is only one way of accessing Stable Diffusion XL. The program is open source, and part of that means that like it gets spread out onto a lot of different apps for usage. So there's like even just the number of different ways of accessing and using this just on what is it called?
uh,
Just little different
yes.
radio apps and things like that.
I was gonna say I want to say we might be able to use one of these as well, where we avoid blurry, we'll avoid a portrait. I believe that is height by width. That's the wrong direction, but sure. I don't know if that's better or worse. Those definitely look a bit cursed, but I think part of what we didn't specify led to that. That does look like Alien Shrek. There's a lot of cool image generators out there. I'm pretty sure you can access through Hugging Face. I think there's actually another access to Dolly as well as Midjourney or as well as Stable Diffusion. There's a lot of avenues you can go down. But yeah, I mean that's hopefully that's a fun, goofy example of applications of it. We can go ahead and try and ask ChatGPT for the sake of brevity. Let's take a look at how this works out. There's a lot of cool mechanics with making. There's an article saying Stable Diffusion with a yeah. Midjourney is completely based on Stable Diffusion. So anything you do with Midjourney is just they have their own specific touches to it. But one of the negatives is that you have way less control. You have no ability to do negative prompting. And sometimes what you generate just might not be what you're expecting. So I could do slash imagine Shrek floating in space, aspect ratio 4:3. The other problem is it can take a little while to actually just generate your images due to the fact that Midjourney functions off of like a really packed queue. So, my images could be generated in 5 seconds. They could be generated in 10 minutes from now. Just for examples, here's some previous stuff I've done with Midjourney to get art assets for my group's presentation. We were called the Gleeful Geese. So guess what? We've generated a lot of images of goose. Yeah. So there's a goose wearing VR goggles. Sometimes even Midjourney will take a bunch of different prompts. Like I wanted to get a goose in VR goggles, and this is what it gave me at first. One had a headset. One's just sort of in an apartment. Honestly, the amount of swans that I ended up getting generated is kind of insane. But yeah, there's a lot of cool applications for it. There's a lot of ways to expedite it, but leveraging good image generation is super valuable. I think for just placeholder images, assets you can use in social media, super duper useful. Like I probably the biggest reason I use it all the time. If I want to spice up a presentation, hey, I know exactly what I can toss into a PowerPoint for school and like blow everyone's socks off now. But if you want to go down the route of learning computer vision, that's the track you're going to be following. Oh my gosh, the potential of generating images for your data sets in computer vision and labeling them is insane. Like the capability of being able to pad a data set of something that might be relatively restrictive for whatever reason, there's so much inherent potential there where that is inherently. So here is Midjourney's Shrek in space. Honestly, bottom left is not bad. I gotta say, like, so this is what Midjourney got me very quickly. Again, with this, you sacrifice a lot of the control. You have no way of negative prompting. Let's say I don't like the weird clothes he's wearing. I have no way of fixing that. I think he's floating to a rock or something. There's a lot of weird things. There's a lot of different approaches to it. How much did the APIs calls cost for that? You must have had to get thousands of. So that's one of the cool things. There's a lot of services out there. So Adobe Firefly, specifically for Adobe I can't speak English, but for Adobe Firefly and for Midjourney, they have options where you have unlimited generations so long as you have a subscription. So for Adobe, I think you need their like whole universal subscription plan, which I do have. But like with Midjourney, if you pay them enough money, they won't actually charge you for your individual calls. They will just charge you monthly. Adobe Firefly is in the same boat. So right now I can try and get Shrek floating in space. And one of the cool things about this is Firefly is able to generate them pretty quickly. You also have a bunch of these Adobe tweaks you can do to mess with lighting. You can change the aspect ratio. You can change content type. So, as I mentioned before, Adobe has some particular limitations in that these don't have access to every, Googleable image. Adobe tried to restrict the image pool that they built everything off of to what they have intellectual rights for, which is in some cases a good thing. In our case, it does not mean it means they don't have access to Shrek. But yeah, Stable Diffusion XL is only getting crazier and crazier. I want to say, if you just look like maybe a year back at image generation models and where they were, it it's not even count. We're hitting one of those timeline of we're on that fun or no, it's like the graph thing. There's like a graph of technological advancement and growth. We are very rapidly hitting that insane vertical point where every day there's new stuff coming up about AI, what you can do with it, how it can be leveraged, and things are just getting better and better. Like we've essentially hit this point where everything is rapidly changing and advancing. Like just look at where like now that there's public eye and attention towards AI, thanks to ChatGPT really blowing up, the amount of money and interest and focus happening in AI and AI development right now is at a total zeitgeist where new things are coming out every day. There's other cool mechanics I might talk or I don't know if anyone's heard of music gen, but there's like entire open the collab notebook. There's entire models that are trained to generate music from scratch. Like right now, hopefully I'm sharing my audio. Just with this prompt, lo-fi, slow beats per minute, loud 80 cents. I don't know if I can hear it. Hopefully, or I can't hear it. Hopefully you can. If you can't, I can send the link to the actual file. It's not working. Yeah, I got this awesome music generated. Like you can essentially just spread it out as long as you want. There's like, this is unimaginable 6 months ago. This was unimaginable to be able to generate good sounding music 6 months ago. Technology is rapidly expanding, and what we can do with it, for better or worse, is really insane. There's a lot of cool applications, and there's a lot of things that will make it easier if you use them. I've never had presentations look as good as I have now that I've started adding AI images and imagery to it. I used to spend like 30 minutes going through Google Images to try and find the perfect image that was what I wanted to add to my slide. Now I don't need to. Now I can generate this horrifying image of Yoda Shrek, and that's all I need to really spice up my presentation. But yeah, I'd highly recommend scroll up and chat a little bit to here. I will find it. The link that the link that Jaden put in chat. I'd highly recommend bookmarking this. Take a look at some of it. There's a lot of cool things and assets it talks about. If you want to learn a bit more about AI prompt generation and some of the more particulars, the cool thing about the space is since so many people are using it, there's a lot of people have done all the hard work for us. we sort of get to leverage all of the good things they've done and start expanding upon that. I've said this in probably every class I've ever taught. There's no need to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. But yeah, I think that's about everything I really planned on covering. We got some, with the useful resources, there's cool stuff. We can get tips on writing prompts or different aspects. I like you saw the example where I generated the Labradoodle. That's pretty much exactly what I was anticipating and hoping for simpler images. Like just telling, hey, ChatGPT, give me some adjectives to get a picture like this. Boom. They can hook you up. And Stable Diffusion is awesome because it gives you 25 free credits. It depends on what images you're generating, but it's free credits. Midjourney doesn't do that anymore. I don't think Dolly ever did that. There are tools that you can use to sort of backdoor and get even more generations. We're in a zeitgeist of technology. The stuff that's developing and really blowing up is insane because I can't like so many of these are popping up every day and every single one of them has the ability to like totally transform how you
And it's really
like
important
this.
to stress here that this is like $1 billion business right now. The business of system automated solutions or SaaS in all sorts of ways. Like we're just looking at a design aspect of this, but in all ways, like this is where technology is going in the future. And like being a part of this right now is awesome. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, a lot of this technology is just going to get crazier and crazier. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out. Probably cut it off here. It's been great.